of Demerara in British Guiana, the only British territory on the vast South American continent. It is a land of seemingly endless tropical rainforests, a land of mountains, savannas, and immense rivers. Vast areas of the interior are populated by only a few thousands of aborigines and a bare handful of prospectors, and on the savannas a few ranchers. But along the coastline it's a different matter, for there an alluvial belt, richly fertile and stretching some 9 miles inland from the coast, supports life with crops of many kinds. The territory was ceded to Britain by the Dutch in 1814, and it was they who built the sea defences and the waterways. Many of the old sluice gates, known locally as cokers, still survive, monuments to the industry, perseverance and skill of past generations. Strange birds, gloriously coloured, abound. Unusual animals browse secretly in the forests and on the savannas, and the flowers are resplendent with tropical beauty. It is surprising that only 5 degrees from the equator the climate is temperate, the day's heat being followed by cool evening breezes. Of all the flowers of the forest and the plain, the Victoria regia lily is the most remarkable, a botanical wonder found only in Amazonia. Georgetown, the capital of the colony, is a city of pleasant waterways, shady trees, and spacious avenues. Until recently, practically every building was of wood. The tallest wooden building in the world, the Cathedral of St. George, was one of the few to escape the Great Fire, which in 1945 devastated the town, now largely rebuilt in more durable concrete. In the streets, you see the descendants of peoples of widely differing race and creed who today make up the colony's population of about 500,000 people. They live and work in amity together. The city lies at the mouth of the Demerara River and is the headquarters of the colony's principal industry, sugar. From its wharves, ocean-going steamers take Demerara sugar to all parts of the world. The sugar is grown on 21 estates, covering in all some 155,000 acres on the alluvial coastal belt. Here, sugar fields are divided up by a system of transport and irrigation canals and drainage canals, which provide not only the sole practical method of transport, but also the water for flood fallowing, a system of soil revivification unique to British Guiana, in which the fields are periodically inundated and allowed to lie fallow under water before replanting. There are no well-defined seasons, and both planting and cutting can and do go on at the same time. Although modern machinery has been brought into use in cane growing, some work is still done by hand. Planting, for example. Sugar cane is grown from cuttings which are thrust into the warm, water-saturated ground and begin to shoot almost immediately. Nowadays, the growing of sugar cane is a scientific business, and back in Georgetown, skilled organic chemists watch over production and prescribe new insecticides and treatments both for the soil and for the cane. Ceaseless research is devoted to the development of techniques which will increase both the quality and the quantity of the crop. It is being found both economic and convenient to inspect and spray fields from the air. When the cane is ready for cutting, the foliage is set alight. Flames fanned by the ever-present trade winds, make short work of the useless leaves without harming the cane itself. Then comes the cutting. No machine has yet been devised which can deal with the heavy growth of cane in the colony, and here again cutting is a hand operation, done with razor-sharp cutlasses. The cut crop is carried to punts, which will take it along the trenches to the sugar factory. A string of as many as 18 punts can be pulled by a small tractor or 6 by 1 mule. As the total weight of a haul may be in the region of 36 tons, it's a heavy load for the mules, but they seem to thrive on it. On arrival at the factory, the complete contents of each punt are lifted with one great heave and swung across by powerful cranes to the endless belt leading into the factory. Once inside, the cane is subjected to a big squeeze, a pressure of 400 or 500 tons being employed. The juice is forced out, and the fibrous residue is later used as fuel. So effective is the squeeze that the residue, known as bagasse, needs no further drying before being fed to the furnaces which supply steam power for the factory. The juice, rich in sucrose, cascades out and is next pumped into evaporating pans. It is inside these that the sugar crystals are formed by vigorous boiling in a partial vacuum. At this stage, the crystals are still mixed with the uncrystallizable residue, which is known as molasses. How to get the crystals out is the next problem. It's done in centrifugal separators. The mixture is poured into drums which have finely perforated walls, rather like those in the spin dryer attached to your washing machine. These drums are then rotated at tremendous speed until the molasses is forced out through the holes, leaving the sugar crystals behind, to be bagged and shipped to refineries in Great Britain and Canada. Nothing is wasted in the sugar factory. Cane is used, as we saw, for fuel after the juice has been extracted, and the molasses is used to make rum. Broadly and simply stated, a mixture of molasses and water is fermented and distilled, and there is your rum. Modern techniques and equipment, however, have transformed a seemingly simple process into a series of exact and scientifically controlled operations. This is an aerial view of one of Booker's sugar estates in British Guiana. The tall building on the left is, at this moment of time, probably the most modern distillery in the world, since it was only completed at the end of 1957. The long, low building, this side of the distillery, is the bonded warehouse. Molasses, pumped from the sugar factory to the distillery, is weighed in an automatic scale, and accurately measured amounts are passed to a special receiver and thence to the mixer, where water is added to form what is known as wash. Mixing is carried out automatically today in closed vessels which preclude any possibility of bacteriological contamination. The particular yeast used to start the fermentation affects the style and flavor of the rum to be produced. Here is a biochemist at work isolating a single yeast cell which will be used to propagate a specific yeast in commercial quantities in aseptic conditions in the pure yeast culture plant. The plant is kept at the required temperature by water spray. At this stage, the selected yeast is added to the wash in the fermenting tanks, again cooled with water. Violent activity occurs as the fermentation, changing the sugar in the wash to alcohol and carbon dioxide, takes place. The carbon dioxide was formerly a waste product, but is now recovered in closed fermenting tanks and used in carbonating mineral waters and so forth. When the fermentation is completed, the now fermented wash is pumped to the stills. Here, steam heat is applied, and under carefully controlled conditions, the alcohol is extracted from the wash by means of the action of the distilling columns and condensers. You will remember that we said carefully controlled conditions, and it is these controls which enable the distiller to produce a wide variety of types of rum from a still such as the one you are looking at. The spirit flows from the distillery columns to a test case where it is continually checked for flow rate, strength and purity, and the approved spirit is pumped to the bonded rum store where it is broken down with water to the exact strength which experience has shown to be the best for transport overseas and subsequent storage. The water used must be absolutely pure. Not only is it drawn from artesian wells over 600 feet deep, but it is passed through a modern purifying and demineralizing plant before being added to the rum. The reduced rum is now drawn off into oak casks, ready for gauging by weighing in the presence of an officer of the Department of Customs and Excise. When the statutory regulations have been complied with, it is shipped by lighter to Georgetown, where it is reloaded into ocean-going ships. From the heat-drenched wharves at the mouth of the Demerara River, the scene changes to one with which we are more familiar, Tower Bridge in the Pool of London. When the casks have been offloaded, they are placed again in bond, once more to be gauged by customs officers. The casks and their valuable contents rest for 2 whole years in large underground vaults, in conditions of unvarying temperature and humidity, summer and winter. Meanwhile, the shipper examines a sample from each single cask. Using a lifetime's experience and knowledge, he prescribes the formula on which the blends are to be established. On his instructions, the various rums are brought together in vast vats and colored with pure caramel to the required tint before being returned to casks, again to rest, now married together, for at least a further year. Only then are they finally tested and ready for further reducing to bottling strength and bottling. United Rum Merchants bring the ideally soft Loch Katrine water down to London for reducing the brands which they bottle. Now the right spirit, reduced with the right water to the right strength, passes to the automatic bottling plant where the bottles are filled, sealed with screw caps, labeled and packed into cartons for use abroad and at home. Here, Lemon Heart Demerara rum is starting on a long voyage to Canada. Years of time and the various skills of fermentologists, distillers and blenders, using both long experience and modern techniques and appliances, have converted the juice of the sugar cane growing in British Guiana into rum as we know it. And whilst the ship is loading, a familiar van is to be seen on the streets of London, taking Lamb's Navy Demerara rum to the trade at home.